I'm going to be honest about something. When thinking about the piano, prepared piano, I was thinking more about a gimmicky technique. Not too interested about it. First time I heard about this sort of avant-garde technique in school, in a classroom setting, during music history lessons. I was not too interested, but I think it was all because it was not a hands-on lesson. I just heard about it, but I could not possibly imagine how this technique would work. But things changed when I had to prepare for a contemporary music competition. And I had to perform a piece using an extended technique to alter the piano sound. And that piece had to be written after 1950s. So after doing my research, I found out that the guy to deal with was actually John Cage. So today I would like to very briefly talk to you about the prepared piano and the possibilities that come through that. Okay, so what is exactly a prepared piano? Does anyone have any ideas? No? Okay, so it's actually a temporary alteration of the piano sound by placing objects between the strings. Some notes have 2 strings, so we can place an object in there. Some notes have 3 strings, so we can place 2 objects between string 1 and 2 and string 2 and 3. Now, of course, then the sound totally changes and we have more of a percussion-like sound. So the piano does not sound like a piano anymore. It is important to know that if it's done properly, it does not damage the instrument. But you have to be very, very careful. You need to do your research about it and proceed carefully. So, you know, when I was here last night after the house music competition, it took me some time to prepare the piano for you because it's a very, very long process. I'm going to talk about the table of preparation later. But after doing so, it took me about 2 hours to get this instrument ready. It's a fantastic occasion to improvise. We don't have pitch anymore. We have sounds like this. Something like that. I absolutely improvise this right now. I do not improvise in music, but I do improvise prepared piano. It feels easier. So in other words, preparing and de-preparing should leave the instrument exactly like we started with the whole process. Okay? The whole story doesn't really begin with John Cage. It begins with Henry Cowell. So John Cage studied with Henry Cowell. Henry Cowell was the first one that really tried to do something about the instrument. He was using extended techniques, but Mr. Cowell was not placing any objects between the strings. He was using his hands to alter the sound, like muting. So I'm just using my fingers. I can scrape the string. Really creepy. One more. I can also pluck it. So this is where the whole story began. And John Cage studied with Henry, and this is what he says. Besides studying with Weiss and Schoenberg, I had also studied with Henry Cowell. I had often heard him play a grand piano, changing its sound by plucking and muting the strings with fingers and hands. So Cowell pioneered the extended piano technique, such as reaching inside, as I just mentioned, but it was actually John Cage that really developed the thing to a different level. Now, John Cage was actually asked to write a piece for a dance company in Seattle, When he entered the rehearsal room, he's noticed that he would have to put so many percussion instruments, but there was no space to perform the dance after. The only instrument he had was the piano. And this is what got him thinking, that maybe he can create percussion sound from inside the instrument. So what I would like you to listen to now, it is a video, but it's just a sound, is the very, very first piece that John Cage composed, and it was the commissioned piece called Bacchanal. Right. Okay, so this is what John Cage says himself about the whole preparation. The Cornish theatre in which Sevilla Fort was to perform had no space in the wings. There was also no pit. There was, however, a piano at one side in front of the stage. I couldn't use percussion instruments for Sevilla's dance, though suggesting Africa, they would have been suitable. They would have left too little room for her to perform. I was obliged to write a piano piece. I spent a day or so conscientiously trying to find an African 12-tone row. I had no luck. I decided that what was wrong was not me, but the piano. I decided to change it. And I was delighted to notice that by means of a single preparation, two different sounds could be produced. One was resonant, the other one was quiet and muted. The quest one was heard whenever the soft pedal was used. Okay, so now I would like to talk about the table of preparation. Every single piece that is written for prepared piano, at the beginning of it contains a table of preparation. This is the instruction from the composer of what we have to change, what pitch, I don't know how well you can see. Oh, fantastic. What pitch we have to change, so this is the list of pitches, the tones. What material I am supposed to use. Then here we have strings listed. So, as some of you may know, the higher register contains 3 strings per tone, meaning that there is a lot of room for preparation. And this is what he says, that he wants me to put a material between string 1, 2, and 3. So here we also have a distance from the dampers. So it's very, very particular where we put the the material. And this is related to the range of the overtones that each pitch contains. Okay, so then he also divides this, because if a note has 3 strings, there will be a preparation between string 1 and 2, which is usually listed in the first column here, and string 2 and 3 in the other string. Now, how do we do this? We have to be very, very careful. So there is this preparation technique that uses the damper pedal. We have to press the damper pedal to lift the dampers off the strings, because if I am about to stretch the string to place an object inside, I don't want to affect the fills that's under the damper. Now I do have my tuning set, Mrs. Zambonini. So I have this rubber wedge. I place it between 2 strings. It gently stretches the strings. So I can possibly just, do you want to guys, if anyone wants to come closer to have a look? You're welcome. Okay, so I have this bolt screw. What I do, I already have my pitch, because I remember. I place the wedge inside to stretch the string, and I place the bolt gently inside. And then I release the wedge. And I have to do this for every single string. And that's why it takes so long. Now also I do have to use a ruler that tells me what inches I am, like what's the distance from the dampers. So those that don't know, these are the dampers, and this is the distance we measure to place a certain object inside. Okay, so I've just done this bolt. We have some rubber here. We have weather insulation here. We have a screw with bolts. What else? Oh, we have a bamboo slit. That's a funny story about this one. I'll tell you later. We also have a screw with a rubber washer. And some wood with some material stuck to it. Sometimes the preparation is very obvious, so we just put the weather insulation together just between the string, but sometimes we have a combination. So if you can see, I have 2 materials between 2 strings. So one string, the screw touches one string, but the material touches the other. So then we have a combination of sound. There's also one stuck here. There's a screw with 2 bolts that create like a jingly sound. Hold on, which note is that? So this is where actually Henry Cowell was not very successful with going beyond just touching the strings, because he was placing objects on top of the strings. But you know, science says the string will vibrate. If the string vibrates, the element, whichever it is, on the string will slide off and will move. So the solution was to place it in between. Of course, when we're doing the preparation, like let's say it is just common sense. If you look on the side, I did go to ACE and I spoke to the ACE technician because I needed to find proper screws. Notice that the distance between strings here is much wider than here. Strings here are much closer to each other and they're much shorter. So it's you have to be very careful to stretch anything here because it may snap. So that's why when I was thinking about placing certain screws, they are smaller in diameter. Is this how we call it? Yeah. So, and then when I was going here, I was not too worried about this because the distance between strings is much wider. So I had more room for improvement. It did take a few trips to ACE because it's always really, really tricky. Last time I did this technique was a few years back when I was at university, and I am bringing this back to life because of the project I will be doing. I will be doing later. So just remember, whoever wants to try it, speak to the piano technician. You want to do your research about it. Remember to always lift the dampers before placing anything. You would want something like this, like a rubber wedge. They come in different sorts. I also have one like this. Yeah, to hold it, it's just easier to hold. And only then you put the object, just not to scrape the object against the string. We want to be as respectful to the instrument as possible, but still creating art. Yeah, all right, thank you very much. So I will now. Ooh, hoo, hoo. Okay. So I would like to now play you a little bit. This is the original piece by John Cage, a piece that I did before, 20 years ago. And if anyone would like to try what I have done, I have actually put stickers on the keys. These stickers indicate which pitches have been prepared. So you can actually try for yourself. Usually when we perform these pieces, we don't put the stickers on, but I've done whoever would like to try and check a certain pitch, how it works, please, you're more than welcome to come after. So this piece is titled Perilous Night. It's a set of 6 movements. I will play the first movement and maybe some excerpts from other movements. Okay? Every movement in any of the pieces that John Cage composed uses only a certain amount of pitches. So if someone just wants to perform the first movement, you just got to analyze the pitches that the movement is using, and you just prepare the piano for this particular movement. Here, for the sake of this lecture, I decided I want to prepare the entire instrument just to show you how heavy the work is. In every movement, John Cage is exploring different sounds. He was inspired by Zen Buddhism, so some of the sounds, I don't know if you know gamelan, they seem to sound like it's gamelan. So yeah, so here's another one, just a quick one. Here's a second movement. There's also more lyrical, per se, third movement. So there is something like this. And there's also one very, very still movement. So if you can see in this movement, I'm just using 4 different notes. So if I wanted to perform just this movement, it would only involve 4 strings. Yeah? Okay, would anyone like to try and improvise? No one? Maybe after. I'm actually going to leave this preparation until tomorrow. So let me tell you, the reason why this came back to life in my life is a project I will be working on. I will be writing a soundtrack for my cousin's movie. She makes documentaries about intergenerational traumas, usually post Second World War. And she was very much interested about the prepared piano, so we're going to be working together on a soundtrack, and she would love to use sounds like this. We've already, like when there was half term, I was in London and we were already recording a couple of elements there, but using voice and using breathing. And then she would like to use some of the prepared piano and also cello with electronics. So there will be one more musician involved. So this sounds like a very exciting project if the movie comes out, although those movies usually travel only around festivals. But if I get a chance to get a copy, I'll definitely share this one with you. So yes, I would like to leave you with this quote. For me, it is a very, very important quote, because in current world, we always expect perfection. Whether we are piano performers or you guys do something else, you know, you always listen out for mistakes, but I don't think the life is about mistakes. So what John Cage says, when I first placed objects between 2 piano strings, it was with the desire to possess sounds, to be able to repeat them. But as the music left my home and went from piano to piano and from pianist to pianist, it became clear that not only are the 2 pianists essentially different from one another, but 2 pianos are not the same either. Instead of possibility of repetition, we are faced in life with the unique qualities and characteristics of each occasion. The prepared piano impressions I had from the work of artist friends, study of Zen Buddhism, ramblings and fields and forests of mushrooms, and all led me to the enjoyment of things as they come, as they happen, rather than as they are possessed or kept or forced to be. I really, really love this quote because it keeps a chance in life, something that sometimes we're not prepared for. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the note preparation that I've just done today, maybe it did not sound great, but I was just searching for a new sound. And if John Cage was still alive, he would appreciate my effort rather than the fact that, oh, but I did give you the table of preparation. Why did you not stick to it? He was this kind of person. He was always searching for more. He was always searching for new. He was part of a massive avant-garde culture in the US. And actually, when I was in the Tate Museum over the half term, I went to an exhibition by Yoko Ono, who collaborated with him. The wife of John Lennon actually did a lot of avant-garde piano, and then she moved on to some more deeper stuff. So this music is interconnected somewhere and always. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you very much for coming. All right. Thank you. Any questions? Pretty heavy.